Well, we spent a little time down here on the south shoreline here in San Antonio Bay. It's been a little bit since I've been back up here in the Panther Point, Panther Lake area. All this back down in here. These fish, trout specifically, should start showing up on this shell now. You know, our water temps are consistently in the mid 80s now, and even creeping up toward the upper 80s. You know, we've seen some 88s, 87s temperature degrees in the afternoons in some areas. So just natural progression for these fish to get up on top of this shell. So usually out here on this outer side, this out point here off of Panther Point has been typically in the past has been very good. We caught a few trout off of it. Wasn't great numbers by any means, but they were solid fish. They were all in that 16 to 18 inch range pretty consistently. Like I say, not great numbers, but we just took our time and just kind of worked on this outer edge, spent time on the shell that's out there. And then, of course, once that kind of bite kind of tapered off on us, we came on the inside, see if we could locate some redfish, which we did not on the day that we fished up in here. Just picked up majority of trout that were in here, but that's, these areas like that, that's how it can be. Didn't go down into Cedar Lake. We primarily just stayed here off the Panther and Panther Point, and then just kind of worked these edges out here on the outer edge of the shoreline. Went back in some of these back lakes, fished the guts in there, a little bit deeper water. Of course, once we got around that noon, 1 o'clock time frame, air temp and water temp were starting to both warm up, so these fish are starting to hang off in a little bit deeper water by that time. So we found a few fish that were in these deeper guts that were through here. But again, it's not great numbers that are on it, but that anticipate those numbers to elevate and get more and more of these fish start to show up on top of that. So we just kind of worked that. Didn't get any of the back lakes back into these areas back in here. We just stayed on the outer edge, then got up here on Ayers Point, just to see if there is some. It's not like it was back in 2015, 2016, 2017 before Harvey. But all this shoreline that was all up in here, it's got some scattered grass on it. You've got some guts there. You've got a couple of little shell pads that are out here along this edge all the way up here to this point. Then, of course, you get back in here on the Ayers dugout area and then fish all that. You got some around that and some grass and some mud that was in there. So, like I say, the time that we fished up here, we spent a lot of time just kind of working these different areas, just see what we could locate and what we could trout that we caught. I think we had a few redfish that were sprinkled in there, but that was the two main species that we were catching in these areas. So again, we finished up our new moon phase, which was somewhat productive. It was a little less than what I kind of anticipated. I thought it'd be a little bit more productive than that, but that's how those bite frames go from time to time. We're in our transition days now. We've got the big moon that's headed our way. Be here probably next 6 or 7 days. It'll be in full bloom, so make sure that you prepare yourself for that time frame. Those early morning bite frames, late evening bite frames would be your best opportunity. Typically, the midday bite in a full moon is the most difficult, but can you catch fish during those time frames? Sure, you can. Just got to be patient with it and work. So we kind of transitioned to the smaller profile baits as the week progressed. We were throwing some of the big 5 and 6 inch coastal brew baits and some of the 5 inch on the Pav lures as well. In primary the green phases and some white, your bone diamond and white ice is really starting to light up and be very productive. In the down south, we pretty much stuck with Big Papa, Watermelon Red, Twisted Tea, the bone, and the white ice in that as well. I think some Texas roach. Had some that were sprinkled in there this past week as well. Some people threw that and did okay with it. And on the days where we had some dirtier water that we were fishing because of our winds and everything, but we did okay with those as well. 16th ounce jig heads. Didn't throw anything bigger than what the 4 inch in the down south and in the burner shad in those as well. That was the main size frame and profile that we were using. That was the most productive for us. The 5 and 6 inch baits did a little bit better early in the week, and it kind of tapered as the week went on. Still caught a few here and there, but the most of our production came off the 4 and the 3 inch baits there. So also in the mirror lure, the Little Johns, again, the Truth has been a very good color moving forward. Little John as well, and the XL. Those will be two size profile baits that we'll be moving forward as we get closer to that big moon phase. So just something to be aware of. Looks like another pretty good week as we have headed up weather-wise. So if you get the opportunity to be out on the water this upcoming week, enjoy yourself and be safe. Here on the front side of Mud Island, man, from Blind Pass here at the ranch house all the way down to the point. This has been kind of a focus for me this past week and a half, is working all this out here on the front, out here on the point, working the edges out here because you got some like little, what I like to call, say, gutter type things where you got a little hill and dale that's in there. You got a nice amount of grass that's working here offshore all the way around. I mean, like I say, the point is pretty healthy this year. It looks like it. You got the backside of Mud back here in the Kelly Lake area. You've got that. You know, we had a couple of days where we had some decent water that was pushed in here pretty high. So those fish push up there on it. We did fairly well for the most part with kind of a mixed bag. Trout, redfish, an occasional black drum. In there, of course, on the backside here, you've got that edge that's out there. We were working down that and working some of these back lake areas that are back in here when those days we had some better water. Or more water, should I say, that was hanging in there. And then just came all the way around here to the Blind Pass area, worked this big flat, worked around that little edge just right there off of that cut, and just kind of made the circuit all the way around. But you've got some really good grass areas, especially down here across from where the oyster farm is, out here on the point. You got two different areas. You got the shoreline area, then you got a lot of guts and cuts and little gullies that are in there. Then you've got an outer bar that's pretty long, and they've got some nice grass and been some pretty solid fish hanging out there on top of that on the deeper edges on either side, especially as the day temperature is starting to creep in on us. Water levels and clarity of the water was pretty good for the most part. We stuck with our darker baits and then kind of transition into something a little bit lighter. Like I say, we were, Twisted Tea and Big Papa in the down south, Watermelon Red as well. The Truth and the Mirror Lure, we threw that a lot in there. Again, another production-wise is that one's really producing that's out there in both the Little John and the XL. Have not thrown the soft dine in quite a while. I've been just strictly sticking with plastics and in sticking in there the topwater baits as well. There's just Spook Juniors, primarily the one that I throw. Like I say, we were throwing some Coastal Brews in the 5 and 6 inch this past week as we were coming out of that new moon phase. Had pretty good productive days. Again, it was more in the green flavors that we were throwing with those rat tail baits that were there. 16th ounce jig head, just working those nice and easy over those grass beds. A lot of these fish still got lots of eggs in them. They all haven't laid. So we're finding pretty heavy fish still. And it looks like that may be the foreseeable future as well here as we slide into, as we've begun June. Our summertime is upon us. The fishing will begin to pick up and be productive for us. Lots of these areas out here around this type of structure, you got your grass, you got your more hard packed sand areas, a little scattered in shell as well, has all been very favorable for us, and we're finding those trout in and around those types of areas. That's primarily all we've been really focusing on, is just some quality fish trout wise. And then like I say, we'll have a redfish that's sprinkled in there every once in a while. So again, just pay attention what your majors and minors are. Working those different profile baits as we head toward this big moon coming up here in about a week, maybe a little over a week, and just kind of pay attention to the small little details, because that can be the big difference between you having a really average day or a very, very productive day. Over here on the east shoreline here in St. Charles Bay area, again, same structure, hard packed grass, little scattered shell here and there, and they'll just kind of work these areas all the way up to Egg Point. You got some tremendous amount of potholes and great grass as you get closer to the Egg Point. You got some great areas. You got some subtle little drops there. We've kind of worked that, just kind of depending on what our wind was. We worked either on the inside of Egg or on the northern side of Egg, and had a pretty decent day, the day that we spent here in St. Charles. Again, just be aware, water temps are right. I've mentioned it in the past before, but the gators are out and cruising around, so nothing too ominous, but just be aware when you do, if you're going to wade this area, that just understand that they are around, and just kind of keep your head on a swivel, so to speak. But like I say, we worked all this area here back down toward the Boy Scout camp area on the shorelines on the east side and on that north side there. Worked around those down there in Little Devil Bayou, back toward the mouth of it. Of course, I like to get on Big and Little Sharp as well when you got the right amount of wind pushing in the right way, because that shoreline can be very productive from time. So we actually pulled off a couple of flounder off of those that area there on Big and Little Sharp. And then back here toward Cow Chip, all this around here around Ernest Point, this whole shoreline here, you got the right kind of structure that's in that. We did not spend any time down in Cavasso when we fished this area. We just kind of stayed over the more harder pack areas that had that, with the harder pack sand and the grass and scattered shell, and that's primarily where we located over that type of structure, finding our fish. Bait fish, not a problem, man. There's so much bait that's stacked in these areas, so there's a big battle to try to really make your artificial stand out amongst the live bait that's cruising around that's in there. So therein lies that's kind of the rub. That's what kind of sets us apart from the artificial to the live bait world. Have to have just a little bit better skill set to make all that stuff happen and make it work. But when you do, it just makes you're proud when you catch those fish on those artificial baits like that, when you got that amount of bait stacked in these areas like that. But again, that's the primary areas that we just kind of fished in and around St. Charles Bay. And you know, back up in East Pocket as well, spent a little bit of time in there, but not a tremendous amount. A lot of shell back in there. I think we pulled off a couple of redfish that were in that area as well. But again, the main baits that we're using in the down south, both the burner shad and the original size, have been the Twisted Tea, White Ice, Bone Diamond, Big Papa Pearl. Those have been the main baits that we've used. We sprinkled in watermelon red here and there. Just kind of worked those for the most part. Purple Rain's been another one that's been pretty good for us as well. Sprinkled in there in both the original and the supermodel size, the burner shad size. It's been pretty good. Coastal Brew and Pavlovers both, again in the green flavors, in those type of things that we were throwing with those. And then, of course, the Mirror Lure Little John's Golden Red Glitter, the Kitchen Sink, which has been pretty good, and then, of course, the Truth. Those three flavors are the three that I primarily have put in Truth in the last several weeks, and it's been very productive for us, and I look for that to continue. But again, just working these areas like that, nice and easy, very methodical. Some days our bites were pretty good for just a minimum amount of time, but then other times that we had to really work and take our time working areas. So just remember that, because those transition days, or wild card days as I like to call them, can give you that type of fishing day. So you really need to just be patient with these fish. Again, we got the big moon that's coming. There'll be a lot of up and down fishing days depending on where you fish, but as long as you're over the right type of structure, you're going to give yourself an opportunity to find and catch fish.